Sun Devils. My name is Amanda, and I'm excited to share with you today my vision statement. When we looked back on the beginning of this course, we can remember that we learned how it is important for teachers to implement a curriculum that is goal-driven and specific in purpose. I've always wanted to be an early education teacher, but this was my first time sitting down and visualizing the type of classroom that I wanted to lead. I remember looking back to the first week's lesson of thinking about the type of culture we wanted to create within our classroom. We learned that culture within classrooms impacts the students' well-being tremendously, so developing this vision statement for my classroom has been a huge deal for me. I wrote about how I wanted to implement a love culture in which students of any color, race, ethnicity, religion, and sexual orientation would feel open and comfortable enough to express their true selves. In Lesson 2, we learned about the types of learners, hidden curriculum, and the effects that teaching methods have on students. We learned that typical American classes conform to traditional teaching methods of reading books and taking standardized tests. In my class, however, it is so important for me to provide different opportunities for my students to gain knowledge. From the Lesson 2 article titled "American Schools Are Training Kids for a World That Doesn't Exist," Edwards stresses the fact that the best way for children to learn is to simply do. I want to get my children active within their community and provide hand-on experiences for them so that they may grow in knowledge, develop critical thinking skills, and conform into contributing members of society and into their adulthood. According to the ED glossary provided by the Lesson 2 provided resources, and because what is not taught in school can sometimes be as influential or formative as what is taught. This defines hidden curriculum. Hidden curriculum is respect, anything that teaches a student what is acceptable and what is not. In my class, I want students to understand that respecting others is necessary at all times. As an educator, I must keep in mind what my students will learn in the outside world. With that in mind, I'll remember to keep my hidden curriculum positive and keep a high-energy class with social and interactive lessons. My visual statement says that as an educator for young children, my philosophy is to recognize the backgrounds and types of learners in my classroom and adjust to their needs. I will implement a hidden curriculum that demonstrates respect, good habits, and positive behavior. I will lead my students in a curriculum that respects others and gives a voice to everyone. I will use a hands-on approach to better educate my students. Children will gain knowledge and become wiser through the experiences and connections created in my learning environment. Next, we learned about space and material culture and how it applies to the classroom. All I can say is fun. According to the Lesson 3 lecture, children will need a stimulating, fun environment to help them be more productive. So how will I make my place fun? Well, first off, in order to make it fun, I need to make sure I have lots of color and that I have material within the classroom that my children and students can relate to. In the book Black Ants and Buddhists, for example, Cowboy creates a safe environment for her students by putting pictures of them on her door. So while there's so many students or teachers who create fun environments by putting ladybugs and making classrooms colorful, that's great, but my goal is to make students feel like they're at home, because when they feel like they're at home in their learning environment, they are their true selves. I will create an environment that influences students to focus on their education while allowing them to have fun. My students will understand that our space is safe, that all students are welcome, and that no idea is dumb. My students' work will be displayed within the classroom, and their cultures will be celebrated. My classroom will include age-appropriate materials that will allow us to build connections with our community, collaborate, and grow. In the Lesson 4 lecture, we learned about achievement gaps. We learned that causes of achievement gap include low expectations for student achievement, uncertified and inexperienced teachers, limited family support, limited access to health and social services, lack of resources, and materials in low-income schools, and negative school culture. So I can help the achievement gap and help reduce it by providing a culture that is acceptable, an environment that accepts all cultures within my classroom. It's important for me for students to be able to build connections with those that share different cultures. Because if we share our cultures, we can come to find out that we really are very similar in many ways. We can build connections. I recognize that the most important goal of my career is to give my students the most meaningful and useful education possible so that they may grow to become contributing members of society. I will treat my students as my own because I will spend just as much, if not more, time with them as their parents. Although I will abide by standards and requirements for the curriculum, I will be sure to educate students on the material in my own interactive, unique, and engaging way. I will take risks and challenge stereotypes. I will create an environment that welcomes everyone to gain the knowledge provided in whatever way needed. So, Cao Hui in the book Black Ancient Buddhist, she really wanted her students to understand the risks of homelessness. She wanted her students to not just donate cans to a food drive, but to understand where these donations are going and why homelessness occurs. Why do kids live under the poverty line? This is something that I hope to implement in my classroom as well. Next, we learned about culture as a disability. Issues and cultural conflicts start to arise when a student who's inexperienced in a certain culture is given materials in this culture, but the student is not able to meet the standard like the other students. We learned this in our lesson lecture titled Culture as Disability. So I can personally relate to culture as a disability because I've experienced it. When I was in junior high, I moved from the city of Chicago to a suburban Arizona city known as Gilbert. I struggled with culture as a disability because I looked different, I acted differently, my clothing was different, and I even used a different language. In particular, I remember I used to call a restroom a washroom, as many Chicago citizens tend to do that. Well, I'm having no friends and being new to the school, I was looking for this washroom, but yet everyone told me that they didn't have one. Come to find out that Arizonians believe that washrooms are actually laundry rooms. Makes sense, right? But when students come from a different culture and they're exposed to a new culture, they have trouble transitioning and they need that help. As an educator, I have to do whatever it takes to make the peace within my classroom, but in order to do this, I must have an honest and open relationship with my students. Cao Hui demonstrates her ability to tackle cultural disability through discussion, so I really hope to do this as well. She asks open-ended questions and answers questions with questions. She provides opportunity for students to share their backgrounds and invites outside resources and families into her classroom so that her students can build connections with other cultures. So if we promote a classroom in which students are honest, this allows the possibility for stereotypes to be challenged and misconceptions within different cultures. It is important for me to develop a routine within my classroom so I can be flexible with the learning material. So Cao Hui demonstrates this in the book Black Ancient Buddhist. In one instance, Cao Hui had a student who didn't get to share their show and tell time and wasn't paying attention, and all the students were not wanting to do the math lesson. They were just not paying attention to her and her material that she had to present today. Just nothing was going right. Because Cao Hui creates a repetitive schedule and she implements a schedule among the students, she allows herself to be flexible with that schedule and move things around easier. Furthermore, by developing routine and rituals such as morning greetings and story times, I will set up a classroom in which my students are engaged. According to the article titled The Value of Classroom Rituals and Routines, engaging the children and making them feel a part as soon as they walk in their benefits their willingness to learn. Greenberg also explains, giving your children the opportunity to participate in the daily schedule will make them feel more emotionally invested in these activities. So as a teacher, it's important that I show my students that work can be joyful, obligations can be fulfilling, and that everything they do can be as fun or serious as they want it to be. My goal is to give students the opportunity to interact with their own studies. Rituals will be a key focus in my classroom. Morning greetings and positive encouragement will be the most important focus of my day. Mindfulness will be practiced and all subjects will serve a purpose. Cultural responsive teaching is learning to teach in a way that is multicultural. In order to teach in this way, I must first know that my students and their families. I can do this by doing something like Kawa did, where she implemented home visits before school even started. There are a lot of benefits to home visits. Kawa suggests doing home visits in particular so that she can get to know the students and create that bond and build that connection, and so that she could understand different cultures. And another benefit is in doing this is it really gets parents involved and it makes them feel comfortable, because having that relationship with the parents is so important, because if you have that relationship with a parent, you can easily have that with their child. The lesson article by Gay suggests that teaching methods and course curriculum and expectations must be conducive to learning for ethnically diverse students. I would like to conclude my presentation sharing my favorite concept within the Black Ants and Buddhists. I believe that the real test of a successful classroom is, open quote, to have the least empowered children, the least articulate, take a leading role in the dialogue, while the more articulate children thoughtfully listen and consider things from their classmates' perspectives before they comment or question. Close quote. So I really like that test because it allows me as a teacher to be able to see the progress within the classroom, that those children who share different cultures and who typically would not be engaged in a classroom, they're starting to get out of their shells, and that is my goal, and that's what I want to see within my classroom. Thanks for listening.